Hello, welcome to today's United Kingdom talk. Chris Reardon for you, just under for the next hour. Lots of emails coming up on the show today. Are you worried about all this flu business? I've got to say, I'm terrified. Absolutely terrified about all this flu business going around. I know it's been with us a week now, and it seems to be spreading. Some of my friends, they kind of just pass it off, you know, as another one of those things that will pass over. I'm not so sure this time. What do you think? I am seriously considering staying in for 2 weeks, because apparently the only way it spreads is through touch, and if someone sneezes in your face. And let's be honest, when we're out somewhere, people aren't particularly careful the way they sneeze, are they? You see them in the street, achoo! And it goes, all this stuff must go flying across the street, dear. Achoo! I mean, some of the really awful people, they're just spitting in the street. I do hate that, don't you? They're just walking along like that. Oh, it's disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. And rubbish being dropped everywhere. I was driving home the other night, about 2 in the morning, from doing a karaoke night, and I drove past these 2 lads in Richmond. I kind of glanced over, as you do, you know, just to check them out. Glanced over, and they were eating a kebab. Right, one of the most vile inventions ever is a kebab. Awful looking thing, a piece of meat turning around on that stick for hours on end, only to be sliced off and shoved in between 2 mouldy bits of bread. I can't think of anything more vile than having a kebab after a night out. They look disgusting. So they're chewing away, and as soon as they finished, they didn't even look. This is the thing. They didn't even look where the paper... They just casually dropped it and carried on walking. I don't know why people do that. What is that all about? I've heard of foreigners coming to this country, coming to the UK, non-UK people, coming here who have been before many years ago, and saying they don't understand why this country is so dirty now. Why is there rubbish everywhere? That's why, because people don't care. It's awful. Now, the funny thing is, and I've got the letter here. I've got to read you this letter. You're going to die when you hear this. If you're a regular listener or viewer to the show, you will know that occasionally, once a week or so, I walk round my house and I pick up bits of rubbish that have gathered there. Usually from people who've had a bag of crisps or a sweet wrapper or one of those plastic things that sandwiches come in. I walk round and I pick them up. Right? Now and again, out the front of my house, just in the communal area, I throw bits of bread. If I've got chicken left over, I'll put that out on the front of my house on a plate or something like that. So that at night time, little animals can come along and eat it. Or birds flock down from the skies into the green area in front of me, and they are fed. They are fed by your very own Dr. Dolittle here on United Kingdom Talk, myself, Chris Reardon. Perhaps I should add that to my name, eh? You know the long version of my name, don't you? Chris Reardon, international megastar, award-winning DJ, landlord, global broadcaster, environmental conservationist, pilot, plumber, what were we going to say? Dr. Dolittle, connector, master of merriment, and your fairy godmother. Perhaps I should add on it Dr. Dolittle. I like to feed the little animals. I've been doing it for years. I don't specifically go out and cook a meal and put that out for them. It's leftovers, right? Usually bread, occasionally something else perhaps, but nevertheless, put in the same place. Never had a problem. I've got this letter here from the council. Bracknell Council. You ready for this? I can't believe it. Dear sir, and it's not addressed to me, it says the occupier. Well, I'm the only one here, unless it's come for the cat, which I doubt very much. I mean, I love my cat, Katie, but she can't read. I've tried my hardest to teach her how to read, but she can't. So this letter has arrived, the occupier, and it gives my address. Is it directly to me? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if all the neighbours along here have got this letter. I've got to read this to you. It has been brought to the council's attention that domestic refuse, namely meal leftovers, bread, cakes, etc., that's got to be me, isn't it, is being left out for local wildlife and pets in the area of, and it actually gives 2 areas, not just mine. As well as being unsightly, domestic waste, if not disposed of promptly, can attract pests. What, like council workers? Is that what they mean by this? Can attract pests, such as rats and mice, by providing both a food source and harbourage. You have been provided with a wheeled bin into which all your refuse must be placed. You may be able to reduce the contents of your bin by recycling papers, glass and plastics. Now, let me tell you, I was one of the first people, if not the first people, in this area to start recycling. I think it's imperatively important to recycle paper, grass cuttings, tins, the whole lot. Everything that can be recycled should be recycled. I always thought this as a child in the 70s and 80s. Why do we chuck all this stuff away? I could never understand it. Why is this stuff not being reused? A few years ago, and not long ago, only a couple of years, the council decided, oh, let's recycle, 25 years behind everyone else that thought of it. Anyway, carrying on with this. I trust that by drawing the matter to your attention at this early stage, it will involve further involvement by this authority. If you require further information, please do not hesitate to contact me, and it gives a phone number. Yours faithfully, Environmental Health Officer. Surely a few bits of bread. Now, I'm talking to my mate Ron about this, and he reckons someone has complained. Some sad person who sits there by their window all day long observing what's going on has complained about me putting out food for the birds. Now, how sad is that? What are these little creatures supposed to eat then? Anyway, I thought to myself, well, I can't put it out the front anymore, so now I just put it in the garden, in my own garden. I put the bread out there. 10 minutes later, it's all disappeared. These little birds need to eat. I take it, dear council authority, that it's okay to put the bread out in my own garden, is it? Is it? Or will I receive another letter like that? Maybe you've got helicopters flying over, watching out for people to drop litter. Have you? Fancy me getting a letter like that. I can't believe it. And all that work, ever since I moved here in 1992, I've walked around my house once a week picking up tins, bottles, bits of paper, everything that tramps, I'm going to call them tramps drop all over the place when they're coming home from wherever they've been out to, or, school people walking past my house, bag of crisps, chuck it on the floor. Saturday night, can of lager, chuck it on the floor or push it in the bushes. I don't only just pick up the bits I can see. I actually, go into the bushes a little bit if I can see a can or a bottle shining there. Pick it up and I put it in my bin. And yet I get a letter like that. I'm disgusted by that. Absolutely disgusted. To receive a letter because I put out bits of bread and cakes for the birds. The rats don't have a chance. There are no rats. And of course, you'll get another letter back, saying, yes, but it could encourage them. There are no rats here, dear. We don't have rats. Perhaps the people in the council who are running the council are such filthy, dirty people that they have rats gathered all round their house, dear. What a I can't believe I've got that letter from the council. I should pass it on to the RSPCA. No one is available to feed cats and dogs because the council says we can't do it anymore. Fine, I'll put it in the back garden instead. Anyway, I put some bread down yesterday afternoon in the back garden, and all little birds, they were flocking around. Of course, I am very careful because I do have a cat. I always make sure my cat is locked up in the kitchen. And she sits there at the window, and her mouth moves in a funny way when the birds come down, like chatter chat, like that. She goes. The birds are flocking down for their food. Talking of birds, we've still got the bird's nest, which is in my what's that bush I've got growing up the wall? Oh, not hyacinths. What's that called? The little white flowers, nice smelly things. Oh, it's gone right out of my head. Not ivy. Oh, what is it called now? Jasmine. Got a jasmine plant growing up the wall. Do you know, I only bought the little jasmine plant. It was only, you know, a couple of inches, about 6 inches tall. No, a bit more than that. About a foot tall when I first bought it in a pot. And when the flowers died, I planted it in the garden. And every year it comes right up. You have to cut it right down again. It comes right up. And at the top, just about the height of my door, my kitchen door, is a bird's nest, little blackbirds. And she sits on her eggs. I'm sure I heard tweeting. Just before I started the last show. I don't know if I mentioned that or not. I wonder if those little eggs have hatched, but you mustn't go in there. Yesterday, I saw a magpie, right, trying to get in the nests. And these blackbirds were going mad, squawking. Squawking at this magpie. Because magpies are not nice birds, you know. They're too lazy to build their own nests. They really are. They're too lazy. What they do is that they find other birds' nests. This is true. They find other birds' nests. And then they kick the eggs out and make the nest their own. Lazy sods. They really are. Maybe that's why I got the letter from the council, because the council is actually concerned about my little blackbirds being taken over by fat magpies that I've been feeding. Could that be it? Fancy me getting a letter like that. I can't believe it. And yet, there's a woman, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 doors along, not in my little block, I hasten to add, outside the back of her garden, right? Is a tyre and that polythene, white polystyrene stuff. She leaves boxes out the back there. Me, few bits of bread, and I get a letter. Isn't it always the way? It's always the blooming way. I'm disgusted. And what about the bloke over there? Doing his DIY every blooming... Well, actually, not so much recently, I have to say. I think he might have seen one of the shows, because he doesn't do it anymore. I haven't heard any banging going on there for ages. I can't believe I got that letter. Have you ever received a letter like that from the council? If so, I want to hear about it. Doesn't matter where you are in the world. Come on, let's have a little bit of a joke about it. Email the show. My email address is chris@unitedkingdomtalk.co.uk. chris@unitedkingdomtalk.co.uk. All right. So in future, I have to feed those birds in my back garden, but they appreciate it. I know they appreciate it because all through the morning they sing for me. You may have heard some of the shows that we do in the garden, and the birds are singing. The birds are singing for me and my cat. The birds are singing for me and my cat. That might be the wrong words to that song, but it's kind of suitable for this occasion, isn't it, eh? Right, on to the emails then, because we've got lots to get through as always. But I also wanted to know, are you very worried about this flu? Because I am. Quite seriously, I am terrified at this flu. There are some, not always, but I do sometimes pick up infections quite easily. as you may have noticed at the end of last year, I kept getting little things going wrong all the time. I seem to go through periods of time where I get infections quite easily. Interestingly enough, not at the moment. Doesn't seem to be anything wrong at the moment with me at all. I am firing on all cylinders. Shields, Star Trek people will understand what I'm saying here. Shields are operating at about 85% efficiency. If you're not a Star Trek person, you won't understand a word of that, will you? No. I do sometimes speak in Star Trek language. Like, for example, my car is not a car. It is a Class A starship. And it travels, usually, at warps between 5 and 8. Warps 5 to 8. Yes. Long-range scanners are always online, unless there's problems. But I don't usually get hull breaches. If you're not a Star Trek person, you won't understand any of that, but Star Trek people will know, won't they? We know what that means. And talking to Star Trek, I really want to see the new Star Trek film, but I'm scared of going into an enclosed space with loads of people. This is the problem, you see. Now, my job entails working with many people. DJing, karaokeing, bingoing. And I am seriously considering taking 2 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks off and watch these people get the flu while I sit at home. Because you can't get it if you sit at home, you know. I don't think you can. You've got to be in contact or be breathed on by someone. Boys and girls, not a good time to go out and find a partner because it may well kill you. Am I getting a little bit too worried about this unnecessarily? People have died in Mexico. It's not a joke. Very, very worrying. I wonder if you too would consider staying in for a number of weeks until all this flu thing's finished. Let us know. Chris at UnitedKingdomTalk.co.uk. Chris at UnitedKingdomTalk.co.uk. Here come the emails then. First of all, from our cat lover, Susan. Now, this is a long one. Because Joe, who does a podcast, AmericanTalkUSA.com, wrote in and wanted to know about the allergy injections that you can get in the United States if you are allergic to dog and pet fur, cats, all that sort of thing, perhaps birds, feathers, everything. And Susan writes, here's some information you can pass on to your listeners, Chris. First, your doctor will test you to see what you are allergic to. Now, the most common methods are the skin test and the blood test. Oh my God, have they got put needles in your arm? Oh, I get creeps up my back when I say that. Susan says, I have had both. Well, that's just being greedy, Susan, isn't it? Having the blood and the skin. I think you're just being greedy, dear. One or the other, please. She says, I found that the scratch test was very painful and the results depend on how well the assistant at your doctor's office is at determining the reaction on your skin. The doctors seem to prefer this method because they can bill for it themselves instead of sending your blood to a lab for results. The blood test is so easy, and I got a lot better results with this method. They just draw a sample of your blood. Oh, well, it sounds horrible, it does. They just draw a sample of your blood, and that's it. It is then sent to a lab that specialises in allergy testing. What your blood reacts to is what you are allergic to. So you decide for yourself. Here is some information. One of the most common methods is the prick test. This involves placing a small amount of suspected allergy-causing substances on the skin, usually the forearm, upper arm or the back. Then the skin is pricked, so the allergen goes under the skin's surface. The healthcare provider closely watches for signs of a reaction, usually swelling and redness of the site. Results are usually seen within 20 minutes. Oh my God. I mean, you can imagine sitting there in a doctor and someone's pricking away at your skin and putting stuff on there that you know you're allergic to. It's all very scary. A similar method involves injecting... Oh, now you're putting me off now, Susan. Injections. Oh. A similar method involves injecting a small amount of allergen into the skin and watching for a reaction at the site. This is called an intradermal skin test. There's a new word that everyone's learned today on the show. Intradermal. Repeat it after the tone. Intradermal. Doot. Very good. Very, very good. Try it again. Intradermal. Doot. All right. Blood testing for allergies, she goes on to say. Blood tests are sometimes performed to find out what triggers an allergic reaction and are often used if a patient has a skin condition or is taking medications such as antihistamines. Such medicines can interfere with an allergy skin test, but in general don't interfere with an allergy blood test. She says the RAST and the enzyme-linked, that is ELISA test, so two different types of tests there. The RAST and the enzyme-linked ELISA test are two types of blood analysis that can be used to diagnose allergies. In both, a small amount of blood is taken from the allergy sufferer and analysed for allergic antibodies to specific antigens. High levels of the antibodies in the blood indicate an allergic reaction. So this is all very interesting, you see. If you've got an allergy to something, you can go to your doctor and try and find out what it is. Always seem to have people allergic at school, didn't you? Someone was allergic to, I don't know, jumpers not made of wool. Other people that were allergic to jumpers that were made of wool, rather. Did I say loo then? Wool? People allergic to milk. People allergic to eggs. Always people allergic to stuff. Now, Susan then goes on to tell us about allergy shots. She says, when you get allergy shots, that's called immunotherapy, your allergist or doctor injects small doses of substances that you are allergic to. That's allergens under your skin. This helps your body get used to the allergen. Your allergist will use an extract of grass, weed, tree pollen, dust mites, moulds, or animal dander for allergy shots. These are made up in serums at an allergy lab and sent to your doctor. They are made to order for each individual patient. Your allergist injects under your skin a solution of salt water, that's saline, that contains a very small amount of the allergens. At first, you get the shot once or twice a week. That's you gradually receive more of the allergen in the shots. After about 4 to 6 months of weekly shots, oh my God, 6 months of injections, Susan? I mean, you put me off when you told me you had to have one. After about 4 to 6 months of weekly shots, you are usually getting the best amount of allergen in the shot. This is called the maintenance dose. When you reach the maintenance dose, you get the same dose in shots every 2 to 4 weeks for the next 4 to 6 months. The period between shots is gradually increased to about a month, and the dose usually stays the same amount each month. You may continue to get monthly shots for, you ready for this, 3 to 5 years. And she says, Chris, I stopped taking my allergy shots over 20 years ago. My asthma and symptoms have never returned. So perhaps you see, it does sound like a load of needles going into your arm, but eventually you don't have to have them anymore. Susan says, what to expect after a treatment? You receive allergy shots in your allergist's office. You will stay in the office for 20 to 30 minutes after you get the shots in case you have a severe reaction to the injected allergens. Redness and warmth at the shot site are common, but they go away after a short period of time. Now she says, why is it done? Allergy shots can reduce your reaction to allergens, which can result in fewer or less severe symptoms. They may also prevent children who have allergic rhinitis from getting asthma. Although recommendations on when to get allergy shots vary, in general, you and your doctor may consider them when allergy symptoms are severe enough that the benefit from shots outweighs the expense and time spent getting the shots. You are allergic to only a few substances, and they are hard to avoid. Avoiding allergens and using medicine do not control symptoms, or you have to take medicine all the time to control the symptoms. Side effects of medicine are a problem. You want a treatment for the cause of the allergy rather than treatment for just the symptoms. You have another condition that is being affected by the allergic rhinitis, such as asthma. How well it works? Well, allergy shots are effective in treating allergic rhinitis and allergic asthma. The shots reduce symptoms in those allergic to pollens, animal dander, dust mites, mould and cockroaches. Now there's one. I didn't know that you could be allergic to cockroaches. I didn't know that at all. You know, with my asthma, I always thought it was just due to pet fur. But I'm pretty sure it's also due to either a change in weather or a change in the air pressure. And in the last week, interestingly enough, we had an area of high pressure sitting over the UK for a while. Now, I've had a problem with asthma for quite a few years now. It's not really been that much of a problem. It seems to come and go. But it used to come for maybe a few weeks and then it would disappear. Last year, however, was the longest period of time that it appeared to become quite a bit of a problem. Don't know why. Like from September right the way through until, shall we say, 3 weeks ago, I was having 1 or 2 puffs, maybe 3 sometimes a day, of my blue, what's it called, Ventolin thing or whatever it's called, which kept it under control, except for about 8 weeks ago, when on a Saturday night I just didn't seem to be able to get my breath. And I ended up calling an ambulance out. And he put a thing on my face while I was at home, and within 10 minutes it stopped. I do believe some of that was also panic. However, that was that. It's never been so bad. Well, about 3 weeks ago, it stopped. It completely stopped. No more using the Ventolin. But that's a long period of time. September, October, November, December, January, February, March. That's 7 months. That's very unusual for me. I did go back down to the doctor, who give me an asthma checkup, and you have to blow in that thing, you know, like that, and it tells you the level on the tube, how well you're doing, and it was the same as it's always been, really, about 650 on that meter thing. So they weren't too worried. If it's completely due to cat fur, then why would it stop for 3 weeks? Right? And then last week, I remember watching on the weather. There was a low pressure conditions were about to come over the UK and sit there for a few days. That was going to happen on the next day. And do you know what? The very next day, in the morning when I woke up, I noticed I was a bit breathless again. Had a quick puff of the asthma thing, and it was fine. I think I had one that night as well, and again, that's been it again. So I don't think it's just down to allergy. I honestly don't. I think it's down to the weather as well. I was talking to a nurse friend of mine, Tom, his name is. He's a nurse. And he says, it's interesting when you talk about asthma. There was a couple of years ago when the weather suddenly changed. I don't know if you've... It doesn't happen very often. Usually, I think temperature changes suddenly, doesn't it? Gradually. But occasionally, you do get a very noticeable sudden change in temperature. And on this particular day, he says, they're all working in casualty. And then within the space of a few hours, people were coming in to the casualty unit saying they were very short of breath. And he had already noticed there had been a sudden change in temperature, too warm to suddenly very close, very, very cold. And the people coming in were not asthma sufferers. Or some of them weren't asthma. They were just people who suddenly felt they were short of breath. So I'm sure it's not just something to do with allergies. I'm sure it's something to do with the cold weather, or perhaps a change in air pressure as well. I wonder if we've got anyone who's experienced anything like this at all. You want to share it with us? Please feel free to do so. Our email address is chris@unitedkingdomtalk.co.uk. That's what this show is about, all sharing each other's stories. Sometimes the emails do take a few shows to come up, but eventually they do. Okay? chris@unitedkingdomtalk.co.uk. Right, we go on there. She writes here, this part is for me specifically because she knows I've got the Ventolin. And she says, inhaled... Oh, this is a long word. I don't know I'm going to manage this one, Susan. You're trying to trip me up with these words. Inhaled corticosteroids, is that how you say it? Corticosteroids are the most powerful and most effective medication for long-term control of asthma in most people. When taken consistently, they improve lung function, improve symptoms, and reduce asthma attacks and admission to hospital for asthma. I do know this, Susan. Also, it does help if you exercise. Now, I do swimming 4 or 5 times a week, and I do walking, and I do cycling. So it all helps. In particular, I think the swimming. She then says, side effects of inhaled corticosteroids are uncommon at the usual prescribed dose. And indeed, I don't think I've had any side effects from it at all, except I did once I had too much and I was shaking a bit, but apparently that's all right. Side effects may include sore mouth, sore throat or hoarseness, cough and spasms of the large airways, fungus infections of the mouth, thrush. I have had that one actually. I have had thrush under my tongue once. Temporary delayed growth in children. That might explain why I'm only 5'6". Decreased bone thickness in adults, clouding of the lens of the eye. That's a cataract. So some potentially nasty side effects there, really, I suppose, but none really which I've suffered from, other than a bit of thrush underneath the tongue. Also, high blood pressure in the eye or fluid build up in the eye, glaucoma, which occurs with high doses of inhaled corticosteroids over a long period of time. She says the US Food and Drug Administration has reported that salmeterol may make an asthma attack worse and may increase the risk of death. If your child's wheezing gets worse after taking this medicine, which she says is Advair Discus, call your doctor right away. To minimise or prevent the side effects of corticosteroids, the person with asthma should use a spacer with a metered dose inhaler. I think I know what that is. That plastic thing, isn't it? The person should rinse his or her mouth with water after using a corticosteroid inhaler, but should not swallow the water. Swallowing the water will increase the chance that the medication will get into the bloodstream, increasing the potential for side effects. Even though the drug companies say these side effects are uncommon, which I think are true enough, Susan, Chris, my eye doctor told me not to use them long term because they do cause cataracts and glaucoma. All right, so thank you very much for that comprehensive look into allergens and that sort of thing, Susan. It's much appreciated and shared with anyone else. And indeed, if you have had any of those side effects or want to share anything else with your allergy that you may have, maybe you've got asthma. Has it ever been a real problem? Perhaps you've been hospitalised? Or are you lucky like me and it kind of comes for a while and then disappears again? Do let us know, okay? Chris at unitedkingdomtalk.co.uk. Chris at unitedkingdomtalk.co.uk. All right, onward we go then. Hello to Wayne Anonymous. Hello, Wayne. We were wondering what TRX means. Sometimes, when certainly the Americans, sometimes you use the abbreviation to your states, which I'm afraid I don't know. So if you're ever writing in and you tell us where you are, can you put the whole name? Instead of NY, put New York. So, well, I mean, I know the New York one, but a lot of the others I don't know. And so if you could please put that sort of whole name of your state. Wayne writes, hello, Christopher. I looked TRX up in a directory of airports. And I thought it was Texas. But he says the designation TRX belongs to Trenton in Missouri. A true bustling metropolis, as witnessed by the fact that their airport has one grass runway and a windstock mounted on the sign for Floyd's Garage, which is located next to the airport's car parking lot. My guess is the person who sent you that email message is responsible for mowing the grass at the aerodrome, and he may also be required to prevent the woodchucks from... the woodchucks from digging burrows on the runway. I trust this exhaustive research will be of benefit to your loyal listeners. From the ever vigilant Anonymous. Thank you, sir. Your information just astounds me. It really does, Wayne. I do keep hearing you on the Ross Pat Zelt show. And entertaining on there. A lot of swearing going on Ross's show at the moment. I noticed that. In fact, there's so much swearing that I cannot mention the Ross Pat Zelt show anymore, I don't think. It's just too much. The trouble is we've got children listening to this, and I do try and keep it as clean as possible, Ross. And you were using some words on the last show, and I'm like, oh, good. No, I'm not asking you to change it. You do what you want. That's fine by us, my little friend. But the swearing, it's a bit much. It was a bit much. Dear me. Oh, talking of podcasts, I've got another one to tell you about. Okay. Oh, now where is it? Now, don't say I've chucked away a bit of... Oh, is it here? Oh, I've actually got 2 podcasts to tell you about. First of all, if you like stories, there's this one who reads stories out. Decoderingtheatre.com. I'm going to spell it for you, okay? Decoderingtheatre.com. Decoderingtheatre.com. And that's a double R in the middle. Watch out for that. Decoderingtheatre.com. I'll read it again. Decoderingtheatre. Decoderingtheatre.com. And that's like stories, like an audio book. And I was listening to The Crimson Death, which is quite good on that site. And there's a little summary of the show. 3 members of the Sanitarium Board of Directors have met an untimely end. Each apparently at the hands of a different superpowered villain. But since all 3 supposed killers were under lock and key, there must be more to the Madhouse murders than meets the eye. Can the Red Panda stop the spread of the Crimson Death? Da, 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 as Ross would say. Or play that piece of music. So that's quite a good one. And there's another one of a bloke, one of our very own listeners, who's trying his own thing out. Now, where have I put the... oh dear, where have I put the address to this? Oh, I bet it's in... Just a minute. I think I might have put it in the bin, actually. Because I was using this last night for me other radio... Oh, what have I done with this now? Let me have a... I'm going to look... Just having a look through my bin here. It's in here somewhere. I didn't think I'd... Oh, there it is. Here it is. Right. Another bloke is now doing a podcast. It's very, very similar to this podcast and Ross's as well. And it's the Tom Harris podcast. He's done 4 episodes so far. And I quite like it. It's a nice listen. It's a nice, relaxing sort of get out of what you're doing and have a little listen to someone else's life. Is that why you watch this or listen to this programme? Because it's nice to kind of get away from your life and perhaps experiencing someone else's, in this case mine. Is that why I listen to things? I don't know. I like stories. I do like stories. But similarly to me reading a long book, if I'm listening to a long audio book in the car or something, I kind of get lost. My attention drifts. I'm much better with short stories. I quite like books that have, stories of perhaps 10 or 15 or 20 pages. I can get into those. I think isn't there a Ronald Dahl book of short stories? I'm sure I've read that. It's got lots of little stories in it. I quite like that. But when it comes to reading a whole book of, 500 or 600 pages, I have difficulty with that. I have real difficulty. I can't get into it at all. Strange, isn't it? Mind you, that William Shatner biography, I read that. That was quite good. I enjoyed reading all of that. But similar with the books, with the audio books, I've had those on in the car, and I don't know, probably because you're actually... Actually, when I think about it, it's probably not the done thing to listen to a book in the car, is it? Because it puts you off. If you're concentrating on the book, how can you concentrate on the road? Perhaps that's why I lose connection with the story, because I'm concentrating on the road. I don't know. Do you listen to audiobooks? What ones have you listened to? Do let us know. Chris at unitedkingdomtalk.co.uk. But this guy, Tom Harris, talks about his life. Quite a nice little escape, really. His podcasts, I think they were about half an hour long, just under half an hour long. And you know what? If this show, I have to say, I've listened to hour-long podcasts and half-hour podcasts. I think, in retrospect, it's actually better if you're a podcaster to do half an hour. I do find with the longer podcasts, similar to audiobooks, I drift. My mind drifts. So although you've got the podcast perhaps playing away in your ears, you kind of lose my attention. I don't know why that is. I mean, my dear friend Anthony, he says to me, your attention drifts. I know I've annoyed him a couple of times with that, because he'll be chatting away and I just go, my mind goes elsewhere. And, you know, I'm sorry that I do that to people, but it's just me, that's how I am. You know, it's not an awful lot you can do about it. It is annoying. You must have seen that before in the past when people are talking or you're talking to someone and they kind of drift. Does it mean I've become boring? Probably yes. So I'm sorry about that. But Tom talks about his life and what he's been up to. And in episode 3, he talks about genealogy. That's where you find out what your mum and dad did and what their parents did. And you go back like that, I think. And it's an absolutely fascinating show, I have to say. And for someone who's never done this before, the quality is good. The voice is interesting. It's a soothing voice. You can quite happily sit there and listen, perhaps with your eyes closed, listening to this voice teasing your inner ear muscles. It's quite nice. Now, if you want to listen to that one, give him a go. And do me a favour, when you've listened, send him an email and tell him, hello, I'm listening to your podcast because Chris Reardon from United Kingdom Talk said so, or suggested it. And then tell him that either if you like it or you don't like it. Whatever. But don't be nasty. I got a nasty email the other day from someone via YouTube. Doesn't bother me. When I get a nasty email, I'll usually print it off on the printer and then use it to wipe myself with in the toilet and flush it away. We all get nasty emails. We really do. So don't worry about it. But send him an email and tell him whether you liked it or not. Here's the address: www.harris, Harris, easy, okay? harrispodcast.podbean, podbean.com. Once again, harrispodcast.podbean.com. The Tom Harris podcast. Really good. And he's only just started doing it, which is just amazing, I think. One more time, harrispodcast.podbean.com. harrispodcast.podbean.com. One thing I will say, Tom, is that you need a domain, my friend. You've got to find a domain there. I don't know if tomharrispodcast.com is available. You may want to have a look at that. Something like that. Something that is memorable. Don't try and be clever. Don't put like a number there or something else that is specific to you that you would understand. It's got to be memorable. Ask your friends. I need a name for my podcast. What do you reckon? Okay? I would suggest tomharrispodcast.com. I bet tomharris.com is probably already gone, okay? So have a look at one of those, something like that. Register to yourself a domain. It'll only cost you a maximum of $15, something like that, okay? It's worth doing. It really is worth doing. If you were ever considering doing sort of a video version of it, then if you've got the money to spare, I would also get a .tv domain. Now, I have 2 domains for this show, as well as radio stations playing my show out, which is always appreciated, and I hope entertaining as well for your listeners. I have 2 main domains for the audio side of things, unitedkingdomtalk.co.uk, and for the video side of things, unitedkingdomtalk.tv. So 2 domains there, unitedkingdomtalk.co.uk and unitedkingdomtalk.tv. And you can go to either of those sites and watch all the shows going back so far. Video-wise, there's a year's worth. Audio-wise, there's 3 years' worth. And funnily enough, I was round my friend's house on Tuesday, Ron. And he noticed I had 331 videos. That's 331 hours of me talking about rubbish. That's not bad, is it? Can you imagine watching that lot back to back? Oh, I'd be tearing my blooming hair out. All right, so give Tom a try there. Last time for that address today, harrispodcast.podbean.com. harrispodcast.podbean.com. Always interested in hearing of what podcasts you like that we can give a mention to. Or I do a live radio show for sometimes, and we do review podcasts. If you've got any suggestions, send them into the usual email address. Can't review professional radio station podcasts because they're always copywritten. Personal things that people have done perhaps off their own backs. For example, I couldn't review any of the BBC podcasts because I wouldn't be able to play them out. But podcasts and radio shows like this one that are not actually owned by anyone except me, and I am happy for anyone to play it out wherever. Anything like that, I'd like to know about it. Let us know. chris@unitedkingdomtalk.co.uk. All right, let me just have a look at the time. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, we only got 5 minutes left. It's gone quick today. A little email here from my lovely niece, Tracy, who you would have seen and heard a couple of Saturdays ago. She was on the show, and she says, "Hi, Uncle. Thank you for having Ben and myself," that's her boyfriend, "over for the weekend. Had a great time. Hope I didn't use too much electricity." Well, yes, you did, dear. You did. I had to turn everything off for the week to save the extra electricity that you used. But, little niece Tracy, it was lovely to see you, my darling. Come to the camera for kisses from your uncle. Mwah, 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 mwah. There we are. Let me see. And it's Millie. Millie, motorised Millie. Our favourite motorised person. Millie in Minnesota writes, "Sorry it's been so long between emails, but since I knew you'd be decorating the studio and had done several shows ahead of time, I wanted to wait before emailing again so that I wouldn't add to the backlog." Excuse me. So what's going on in Millie's world? And look at that, Millie's World. Now, there's a title for a podcast if you ever do one, Millie. Millie's World. She says, "Well, I've just finished watching the video version of the show dated the 18th of April. And Terry's story," that's Terry, who I used to work with at West 5 in Ealing. He had a problem with a council, the council there writing to him about some parking thing or whatever. She says, "And Terry's story is a perfect example of why I won't vote. Even here in Minnesota and all across the USA, it seems the government couldn't give 2 tosses about the people. It's disgraceful and no one listens anyway, so I don't even bother voting." I know exactly what you mean, Millie. Here in this country, politicians have got a bit of a problem now because people do not believe that they are doing their jobs for the benefit of other people other than themselves. You see, I always thought people in politics, people in councils are supposed to be doing that job for the benefit of the people that voted them in. But it seems to me a lot of them are doing it for their own benefits. Extra houses, extra money for this, extra money for that. And the electorate are getting rather fed up with this. The trouble is, what do you do about it? There doesn't seem to be anything you can do about it, other than vote them out. And who do you vote in? Someone who's going to do exactly the same thing all over again. We don't trust you anymore. Millie says the same. She says, as I write this, I'm tucked up in bed, laptop beside me, with a stomach bug from hell. You know, the one that causes back-end problems. Oh, I don't want to know, Millie. Oh, how dreadful, Millie. She says, oh, joy not. Having said that, though, your show did bring a smile to my face, as always, and take my mind off it for an hour, so thank you. I hope so. So that's it. And that's lots of love from Millie. So thanks for that, Millie. I hope that's cleared up now, my darling. One email more on the show today from Katie on the Isle of Wight. Hello, Katie, who says, hello, Chris. David and I had a great time away in London for a few days. We love the show and love the studio you have painted. Love the colour of the room. What is it my niece said? Pistachio green, it is, pistachio green. Looking forward to seeing your shows, hun, from Kate and David on the Isle of Wight. And there we go. That's about it for the show today. As always, thanks for joining me. Do join in by email, chris@unitedkingdomtalk.co.uk. chris@unitedkingdomtalk.co.uk. See you on the next show. Bye-bye now.